Las Vegas, July 23, 1973. A 19-year-old kid named Michael Rodriguez sat outside the International Hotel crying. He had hitchhiked 2,000 miles from Ohio to see Elvis perform, but discovered tickets cost $50, money he didn't have. What happened when Elvis's bodyguard found him sobbing on the sidewalk became one of the most beautiful examples of why they called him the King. Subscribe to Elvis Presley Legacy Stories for moments when the King proved that dedication deserves recognition. Michael Rodriguez was 19 years old, working 2 minimum wage jobs in Cleveland, Ohio, barely making enough to pay rent for the tiny apartment he shared with 2 roommates. He had been an Elvis fan since he was 10 years old, when his mother played Can't Help Falling in Love at her wedding to Michael's stepfather. For Michael, Elvis's music represented hope and possibility. Growing up poor in a rough neighborhood, Elvis's story resonated deeply. Here was a kid from nothing who became everything. If Elvis could do it, maybe Michael could too. When Michael learned that Elvis would be performing in Las Vegas for a month-long residency, he made a decision that his friends thought was crazy. He would go see Elvis perform no matter what it took. But what Michael didn't know yet was getting to Vegas would be the easy part. Michael had exactly $127 to his name, his entire savings from 6 months of working double shifts. He calculated that if he hitchhiked to Vegas instead of buying a bus or plane ticket, he'd have enough money left over for a concert ticket, a few meals, and a bus ticket back home. On July 20th, Michael told his roommates he'd be back in a week, threw some clothes in a backpack, and stuck his thumb out on Interstate 71. Over the next 3 days, he caught rides with truck drivers, college students, and traveling salesmen. He slept in rest stops, ate at truck stop diners, and kept moving west. The journey was harder than he'd imagined. Ohio to Indiana to Illinois to Missouri to Kansas to Colorado to Utah to Nevada, 2,000 miles of American highway, riding with strangers, trusting that his determination and Elvis's music would keep him safe. He arrived in Las Vegas on July 23rd, exhausted, sunburned, and exhilarated. He had made it. He walked the Las Vegas Strip toward the International Hotel, the famous building where Elvis performed, feeling like he had accomplished something significant just by getting there. Wait until you see what happened next. Michael walked into the International Hotel's box office at 3 p.m., dirty from 3 days of travel, but smiling. "1 ticket for Elvis tonight, please," he said to the woman behind the counter. $50, she replied without looking up. Michael's smile froze. "50? I thought tickets were $25. Regular shows are $25, but tonight is a special Saturday night performance with extended set list. $50. Michael felt his stomach drop. He pulled out his wallet and counted his remaining money. After 3 days of food and incidentals on the road, he had exactly $43 left. Not enough for the ticket, and definitely not enough for a ticket plus a bus ride home. "I only have $43, Michael said, his voice shaking. "Is there any way? Can I get a cheaper seat? Standing room? Anything?" The woman finally looked up at him, taking in his disheveled appearance, his sunburned face, his desperate eyes. Her expression softened slightly. "I'm sorry, honey. There are no cheaper seats. It's a sellout show. Every seat is $50 minimum. You haven't seen the biggest surprise yet." Michael stood there for a long moment, trying to process this. He had come 2,000 miles. He had risked everything on this trip, and he was $7 short. Is there any way I can work for a ticket? Clean something? Carry equipment? I'll do anything." The box office attendant shook her head sympathetically. "I don't have that authority, sweetie. I'm sorry." Michael felt tears starting to form. He nodded, unable to speak, and turned away from the counter. He walked outside into the brutal Las Vegas heat and sat down on the sidewalk beside the hotel entrance, put his face in his hands, and broke down crying. He had come so far. He had been so close. And now he was sitting outside the building where his hero was performing, unable to get in because of $7. Don't miss this crucial detail. Red West, one of Elvis's longtime bodyguards, was doing his usual security sweep around the hotel perimeter before that evening's show. He noticed a young man sitting against the building, crying, clutching a backpack that looked like it had been through a war. Red approached carefully. Years of working security had taught him to assess situations before intervening, but something about this kid's posture suggested he wasn't dangerous, just devastated. "Hey, son, you okay?" Michael looked up, wiping his eyes quickly, embarrassed to be caught crying. "Yeah, I'm fine. Sorry, I'll move." "Hold on," Red said, crouching down to Michael's level. "What's going on? You in some kind of trouble?" Michael shook his head. "No trouble. I came from Ohio to see Mr. Presley perform. Hitchhiked for 3 days. The tickets are $50 and I only have 43. I'm $7 short." Red studied the kid's face. The sunburn, the exhaustion, the absolute heartbreak. "You hitchhiked from Ohio? 2,000 miles? Yes, sir. I know it was stupid. I've never seen him perform. His music means everything to me. I thought if I could just see him once. Michael's voice broke again. What you're about to witness will blow your mind. Red West had been with Elvis since high school. He'd seen thousands of fans over the years, but something about this kid's dedication struck him. This wasn't a wealthy tourist disappointed about missing a show. This was a young man who had risked everything for a dream. What's your name, son? Michael Rodriguez. Michael, I want you to wait right here. Don't move. I'll be back in 10 minutes. Red stood up and walked into the hotel, heading straight for Elvis's dressing room. He knocked on the door and entered without waiting for a response, one of the few people who had that privilege. Elvis was getting ready for the show, reviewing the set list with the band. Red, what's up? Boss, there's a kid outside you need to meet. Think about this. If you were Red West, would you interrupt Elvis's pre-show preparation for one struggling fan? Or would you just buy the kid a ticket yourself and move on? The choice he made changed Michael's life. Red explained the situation, the hitchhiking, the dedication, the heartbreak over $7. Elvis listened without interrupting, his expression growing more thoughtful. He hitchhiked 2,000 miles for 3 days just to see me? That's what he said. And boss, I believe him. You can see it on him. The sunburn, the dirt, the exhaustion. This kid gave everything he had to get here. Elvis was quiet for a moment. Then he stood up. Where is he? Outside the front entrance. Take me to him. Red led Elvis out through the hotel corridors and outside to where Michael was still sitting on the sidewalk, head down, trying to figure out how he was going to get home with no money. Michael Rodriguez? Michael looked up and found himself staring at Elvis Presley, the actual Elvis Presley, standing on the sidewalk in front of him. For a moment, Michael thought he was hallucinating from heat and disappointment. Oh my God, you're really him. That's when the real magic began. Elvis sat down on the sidewalk next to Michael, not caring about his expensive stage clothes or what passers-by might think. He just sat there like they were two regular people having a conversation. Red tells me you hitchhiked from Ohio to see my show. Michael nodded, unable to form words. That's 2,000 miles, son. That's a serious journey. Why would you do something like that? Michael finally found his voice. Because your music saved my life, sir. Elvis turned to look at him directly. How's that? When I was 13, my real father died. My mom remarried, but I was angry and lost. I was heading down a bad path. Then one day I heard you singing In the Ghetto on the radio. The line about, if we don't love our children, one by one, another young man dies, hit me hard. It made me realize I had a choice about who I became. Michael was crying again, but he kept talking. Your story inspired me too. You came from nothing and became everything. You showed me that where you start doesn't determine where you finish. I've been saving to see you perform for 6 months. I know it was stupid to come without enough money, but I thought if I could just see you once, just be in the same room with you, it would give me the courage to keep trying to make something of my life. Hold on, this story has an incredible continuation. Elvis sat quietly for a moment, clearly moved. Then he stood up and offered Michael his hand, pulling him to his feet. Michael, first of all, it wasn't stupid to come here. It was brave. It takes courage to chase something you care about. Second, you're not going to sit outside my show. You're coming inside, and not just inside. You're going to watch from backstage, right in the wings where you can see everything. Michael stared at him in disbelief. Sir, I can't afford. Did I ask you for money? Elvis smiled. Come on, let's get you cleaned up and fed before the show starts. Elvis led Michael into the hotel, ignoring the shocked stares of staff and guests who couldn't believe what they were seeing. Elvis Presley walking through the lobby with a disheveled teenage hitchhiker. Elvis took Michael to his personal suite and told him to take a shower and clean up. While Michael showered, Elvis had staff bring a complete change of clothes, new jeans, a shirt, even new shoes, all in Michael's size. When Michael emerged from the bathroom, clean for the first time in 3 days, Elvis was sitting on the couch with a room service cart full of food. Sit down and eat. You look like you haven't had a decent meal in a week. Michael sat and ate while Elvis asked him questions about his life, his dreams, his struggles. Elvis didn't treat him like a charity case or a fan to be humored. He treated him like a person worth knowing. You need to know this incredible detail. Michael, I'm going to tell you something I don't tell many people, Elvis said after they'd been talking for a while. Sometimes I forget why I do this. The performing, the pressure, the expectations, it all becomes overwhelming. But meeting someone like you reminds me. You're why I perform. Not for the money or the fame, but for the kid who needs to hear that their life can be different, that their circumstances don't define their destiny. Elvis reached into his wallet and pulled out several $100s. This is for your bus ticket home and to get you started. And I'm going to give you my personal phone number at Graceland. If you ever need advice, help, or just someone to talk to, you call me. I mean it. Michael was crying so hard he could barely see. Mr. Presley, I don't know what to say. Say you'll keep chasing your dreams. Say you'll help someone else when you're able. That's all I need to hear. But the most touching moment was still to come. Elvis didn't just let Michael watch from backstage. He introduced him to the band, to the backup singers, to everyone in his crew. He treated Michael like an honored guest rather than a charity case. When the show started at 9 p.m., Michael stood in the wings watching Elvis perform just 15 feet away. He saw the sweat, the effort, the artistry up close. He heard every note as it left Elvis's mouth before it hit the microphone. He watched 2,000 people lose their minds while he had the best seat in the house. Halfway through the show, Elvis did something nobody expected. He stopped between songs and addressed the audience. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to tell you about a young man named Michael Rodriguez. Michael hitchhiked 2,000 miles from Ohio. That's 3 days on the road with strangers just to see this show. He arrived with $43, $7 short of a ticket. But you know what? That kind of dedication deserves recognition. Elvis gestured to the wings. Michael, come out here. Michael walked onto the stage in shock, the spotlight hitting him as 2,000 people began applauding. Elvis put his arm around his shoulders. This young man represents what's best about music fans: passion, dedication, sacrifice. He reminds us that music isn't just entertainment, it's connection, it's inspiration, it's hope. Michael, thank you for reminding me why I do this. Wait until you hear what happened after. The audience gave Michael a standing ovation. Grown men and women were crying. People in the audience started throwing money onto the stage, not for Elvis, but for Michael, wanting to help this kid who had sacrificed so much. Security collected the money, and by the end of the night, Michael had over $800 in donations from other audience members who were moved by his story. But Elvis wasn't done yet. After the show, he took Michael to dinner at a late-night restaurant, just the two of them, and read West. They talked for hours about life, dreams, challenges, and possibilities. Michael, I'm going to tell you something my mama told me, Elvis said as they finished eating. She said the measure of a man isn't what he has, but what he does with what he has. You had $43 in a dream, and you turned that into a 2,000-mile journey. That's using what you have. That's real wealth. The next morning, Elvis personally drove Michael to the bus station in his Cadillac. He bought Michael a first-class bus ticket back to Cleveland and gave him an additional $500. This is for school or training or whatever you need to improve your situation, Elvis said. But here's the deal. You have to promise me you'll use it for something that moves you forward. I promise, Michael said. Mr. Presley, how can I ever repay you? You already did. You reminded me why all of this matters. That's payment enough. Before Michael got on the bus, Elvis gave him one final gift, the scarf he'd worn during the previous night's performance, signed on the back with a personal message. To Michael, never stop chasing your dreams. Your friend, Elvis Presley. Incredible revelation coming up. Michael Rodriguez returned to Ohio transformed. He enrolled in community college using the money Elvis had given him, studying business management. He worked his way through school, always keeping Elvis's scarf and the memory of that weekend as motivation when things got difficult. After graduation, Michael started a small business helping other young people from low-income backgrounds develop job skills and find employment. He called it the Dream Chase Foundation, directly inspired by Elvis's encouragement to keep chasing dreams. Over the next 30 years, Michael's foundation helped over 5,000 young people from disadvantaged backgrounds get education and job training. Many of them went on to successful careers they never thought possible. Every person who came through the program heard Michael's story about hitchhiking to Vegas and meeting Elvis. The lesson was always the same. Dedication gets recognized, dreams deserve pursuit, and when someone helps you up, you reach back to help others. But here's something most people don't know. Michael kept his promise to call Elvis. Over the next 4 years until Elvis's death, they spoke on the phone several times. Elvis would call to check on Michael's progress, offer advice, and encourage him. They developed a genuine friendship, despite the vast difference in their circumstances. When Elvis died in 1977, Michael was devastated. He flew to Memphis for the funeral, bringing with him letters from 50 young people whose lives had been changed by Michael's foundation, all of them wanting Elvis to know that his kindness to one 19-year-old had rippled out to affect hundreds of others. Priscilla Presley read some of those letters at the private family service, bringing many to tears with stories of how Elvis's act of kindness had multiplied. Michael Rodriguez is now 70 years old and recently retired after running his foundation for 4 decades. In total, The organization helped over 12,000 young people pursue education and careers. People always ask me what Elvis was really like, Michael says in his retirement speeches. They want to know if he was as generous and kind as his reputation suggests. I tell them that everything good you've heard about Elvis Presley is true, and probably underestimated. He didn't just give me money or a concert experience. He gave me belief in myself. The Dream Chase Foundation continues under new leadership, with Michael serving as an advisor. The organization's headquarters in Cleveland features a museum-style display of that weekend in Vegas. Michael's original backpack, the clothes he wore, the bus ticket home, and prominently displayed, the scarf Elvis gave him. Thousands of foundation alumni visit the display annually, many bringing their own children to see it and hear the oddity. Story of why dedication and dreams matter. If someone believed in you the way Elvis believed in Michael, how would it change your life? What dreams would you pursue if you knew someone was watching and cheering for you? In 2003, Michael established the Elvis Presley Second Chance Scholarship within his foundation, specifically for young people who had traveled long distances or made significant sacrifices to pursue educational opportunities. The scholarship has funded over 500 students, many of them sharing stories similar to Michael's, kids from difficult circumstances who were willing to work hard and sacrifice for their dreams, but just needed someone to believe in them. Elvis gave me a second chance when I was sitting on that sidewalk thinking my journey had been for nothing, Michael explains. These scholarships are my way of being Elvis for someone else. I can't change the world, but I can change one person's world, and that one person might change someone else's. That's how Elvis's kindness continues to multiply. Wait until you hear what happened after. In July 1977, just 1 month before Elvis died, Michael was planning a trip to Graceland to visit Elvis and show him what the foundation had accomplished. He had purchased a plane ticket and was excited to finally thank Elvis properly for changing his life. But before the visit could happen, Elvis died. Michael never got to show him the direct impact of his generosity. My biggest regret is that Elvis never knew how many lives he changed through me, Michael said in a 2015 interview. He knew about my foundation, but he didn't know about the thousands of people who were helped because of what he did for one broke kid from Ohio. I wish I could have told him, "Your kindness didn't stop with me. It multiplied." However, Lisa Marie Presley later contacted Michael after reading about his work. "My father would be so proud of you," she told him. "You did exactly what he always hoped people would do. You passed the kindness forward." Lisa Marie became a donor to the Dream Chase Foundation and personally funded several scholarships in her father's memory. In 2018, a documentary filmmaker discovered Michael's story and produced a film called $7 Short: How Elvis Presley Changed Everything. The documentary traced the full impact of that 1973 encounter, interviewing dozens of people whose lives were changed by Michael's foundation. The film showed that Elvis's one act of kindness toward Michael had, through the foundation, indirectly helped create 43 teachers, 27 nurses, 15 police officers, 8 doctors, hundreds of other professionals, thousands of stable, employed individuals who were raising families and contributing to their communities. The documentary won several awards and reignited interest in Elvis's private generosity. It showed that a single act of recognizing someone's dedication could create ripples that lasted generations. What makes the documentary particularly powerful is its central question: how many potential Michael Rodriguez's are out there right now, $7 short of their dreams, waiting for someone to notice and care? Psychologists who studied Michael's transformation noted that the encounter with Elvis fundamentally changed his self-concept. Before Vegas, Michael saw himself as a poor kid with limited options. After Vegas, he saw himself as someone worth investing in. Dr. Sarah Chen, who wrote a case study on Michael's experience, explained, "Elvis didn't just give Michael money. He gave him identity validation at a critical developmental moment. Michael was 19, forming his adult self-concept. Elvis's recognition and investment told Michael, 'You matter, your dreams matter, you're worth believing in.' That message became the foundation of Michael's entire adult life. This psychological insight helps explain why Michael's foundation was so successful. He understood viscerally what young people from difficult circumstances needed because he had been one of them. He knew that money alone wasn't enough. They needed to be seen, recognized, and treated like their dreams mattered. Today, the story of Elvis and Michael Rodriguez is used in business schools as a case study in investment and in human capital. Michael's foundation represents a 40-year return on Elvis's $500 investment that has created millions of dollars in economic value through the careers of people the foundation helped. But more importantly, it's used in education programs as a reminder that investing in people creates returns that can't be measured just in money. The teachers, nurses, police officers, and others helped by Michael's foundation have touched thousands of additional lives through their work. Elvis Presley made a $500 investment in Michael Rodriguez in 1973, said one economist who studied the case. If we try to calculate the total social and economic return on that investment over 50 years, we're probably looking at millions of dollars in value created. That's the power of recognizing and nurturing potential. The story of Elvis and Michael Rodriguez teaches us several profound lessons. First, dedication deserves recognition. Michael's willingness to hitchhike 2,000 miles demonstrated the kind of commitment that should be rewarded, not ignored. Second, the difference between success and failure is often much smaller than we think. Michael was $7 short, a tiny gap that represented an enormous barrier. How many people are stopped by small obstacles that seem insurmountable? And how many of us could easily remove those obstacles for others if we just noticed? Third, kindness multiplies. Elvis helped one person, who helped thousands, who will help millions over time. That's how we change the world, one act of recognition and generosity at a time. How? Many people around you right now are $7 short of their dreams. How many are doing everything they can but falling just slightly short? What would happen if more of us had Elvis's instinct to notice and help? Over 50 years later, people still talk about the day Elvis found a crying teenager outside his show and changed that young man's entire life trajectory. It wasn't his biggest concert or most famous moment, but it might have been his most important act. A demonstration that true greatness is measured by how we treat those who have nothing to offer us except their dedication and dreams. In a world that often ignores struggling young people, this story reminds us that the future depends on recognizing potential and investing in it. Michael Rodriguez wasn't asking for a handout. He was $7 short after doing everything he could. That's not failure. That's courage. And it deserved to be recognized. That's why this story matters. It reminds us that we all have opportunities to be someone's Elvis, to notice when someone is close but not quite there, and to provide the small boost that makes the difference between dreams abandoned and dreams achieved. That July day in 1973, Elvis Presley proved that being the king meant noticing who others overlooked, recognizing dedication even in unexpected forms, and understanding that sometimes the smallest investments create the biggest returns. He showed us that $7 isn't just $7 when it's all that stands between someone and their dream. Michael Rodriguez came to Las Vegas hoping to see a concert. He left with a new life direction, a mentor, and the belief that he mattered. That belief transformed him from a struggling teenager into a man who would help 12,000 others believe in themselves. If this story moved you, look around for people who are close but not quite there, who are doing everything they can but falling just short. Be their Elvis. Notice them. Believe in them. Give them the boost that changes everything. Subscribe to Elvis Presley Legacy Stories to discover more moments when the king showed us that small acts of generosity create enormous ripples. Share this story with someone who needs to remember that dedication deserves recognition, because that's what real kings do.